Okay, dividing. So just a quick review of dividing. When you divide by a fraction, you're really multiplying by the reciprocal. Okay, so R-E-C-I-O-R. Okay, so you're going to multiply by the reciprocal. Remember, it's keep, change, flip. So if you look at the first one, so we've got monomials here, you're going to keep the first fraction exactly how it is. You're going to change it to multiplication and flip your second fraction. Okay, so you're no longer going to be using this second fraction. You're going to have to flip it. And then I can cross simplify here. So 3 and 6 can simplify. 5 and 25 can simplify. So it gives me 5 over 2. And then x and x squared can simplify. You get an x in the denominator. All right, looking at the next one, keep the first fraction exactly how it is, change and flip the second fraction. Really nothing to cross simplify here, so I'm actually going to only have to cancel the x's. So I'm left with 24 over 5 for my numbers and a y to the third. Now it's the exact same thing even when we have binomials and trinomials and other things. Okay, so it's the exact same thing. You have to do keep, change, flip. So you're going to keep your first fraction exactly the same, change your second fraction by flipping it around. Okay, so instead of having it be 5x minus 7 over 1, I'm going to flip it and have it in the denominator. Okay, all right, so for the first one, I have to do the British method. So I'm going to go over here and use the British method. So 5 times 42 is going to be giving me a negative 210. So I need two numbers that multiply to negative 210 and add to 23. All right, so play around with the calculator for a little bit, but I do believe I know what it is. It's going to be 30 and 7, so a positive 30 and a negative 7. So it's going to be 5x squared plus 30x minus 7x minus 42. And then I'm going to factor by grouping. Pull out a 5x, leaves me with x plus 6. Pull out a negative 7, leaves me with x plus 6. So that numerator factors into 5x minus 7 and x plus 6. So that's what the numerator is. My denominator I can keep exactly the same. And that's going to be x plus 7. And remember, I did keep, change, flip and made it 1 over 5x minus 7, which is good because that means that I can cancel the 5x minus 7s. So my answer is x plus 6 in the top, x plus 7 in the bottom. All right, looking at the next one, keep, change, flip. So I'm going to start with my first fraction. I'm going to do add, multiply for both of these. Add, multiply. So I need two numbers that multiply to negative 22 and add to 9. So that's going to be my x minus 11, x plus 2. And then the bottom, same thing, multiply to negative 24, add to 5. So that's going to be x plus 8, x minus 3. And then my second fraction, I'm going to multiply and then flip it. So keep, change to multiplication and flip. And you'll notice as soon as I flip it, okay, now I can actually cancel the x plus 2's and the x minus 3's. Because remember, this becomes one big giant fraction. And then what's left over is the x minus 11 and the x plus 8. Moving on to the next one. Okay, not in standard form, so I'm going to write this in standard form, and I'm going to have to pull out a negative 1 before I factor it. Okay, so if I pull out a negative 1, it gives me a positive x squared minus 3x minus 10. So now when I do add, multiply, I need two numbers that multiply to negative 10 and add to 3. Multiply to negative 10 and add to 3. So that's going to give me x, add to negative 3, x minus 5, x plus 2. And then the bottom, I'll keep the monomial. But now I'm going to times it by the flipping of this fraction. So I have to flip it around. So I'm going to write the 75y to the 5th at the top now, and then this is a GCF. Okay, so this is factoring out a GCF, and that's a 5xy. 5xy leaves me with x plus 2. Now I can start canceling, so the x plus 2 is an easy cancel. Let's look. I'm actually going to smush this all together, so it's going to be a negative 75y to the 5th x minus 5 before I simplify, but you can keep cross-simplifying if you want. 300 xy to the 2nd. All right, now I'm going to simplify. So 75 over 300 can reduce to a negative 1/4. Okay, my y's are going to be y to the 3rd, and then there's going to be an x that stays at the bottom, and then I still need to include the x minus 5. You don't really need that negative 1 there. You could put just the negative, or you could put the negative down with the 4. All right, looking at the next one, so this is a difference of 2 squares. This is going to be a GCF. All right, starting with the first one, difference of 2 squares, that's 12 and 1. So that's going to be 12x plus 1, 12x minus 1. Bottom stays the same. Top, I'm going to flip it. Okay, so this is a GCF here for the top. So I'm going to take out the 5x, but I'm going to write it on the bottom. Okay, that way I know to keep change flip. So it's going to leave me with 12x minus 1. And then this, if I write it in standard form and then factor out a negative 1, I get x minus 1. Okay, write it in standard form first. Realize that the leading coefficient is negative, so you need to factor out the negative 1. And then now I can cancel like crazy. So I'm going to make one big giant fraction. The x minus 1's go away, and the 12x minus 1's go away. So I'm left with a negative 1 up top with a 12x plus 1. And at the bottom, it's just a 5x. You could write your answer like this. You could actually write your answer with the negative down there with the 5x, or you could write the negative just out front without the 1. There's lots of other ways we could write our answer when we have a negative 1. Looking at the last two, so keep the first fraction exactly how it is. So this is a GCF. This is going to be an add multiply. So x minus 8x plus 3 for the top. Bottom, I'm taking out an 8x, leaves me with x plus 1. This one is technically a fraction that looks like this, okay? But I'm going to change it and put the 1 at the top. And then it's going to be an add multiply with an x plus 3 and an x plus 3. So if I make it one big giant fraction, not much really cancels. Only one of the x plus 3's cancel. And that's about it. Okay, so there's not too much that left over that cancels. So you're going to be left with an x minus 8 up at the top, and then at the bottom you're going to have an 8x, an x plus 1, and an x plus 3. So sometimes that happens. Okay, you might have something that doesn't simplify down all the way. It might look a little strange or a little bit unsimplified, but it is as simplified as we can go. Last one. Keep change flip. So the first one is a GCF. This one's nice. So this is a GCF, but then it turns into a dots. So 5x squared minus 4, and then this is a difference of 2 squares. Okay, so it ends up being 5x plus 2x minus 2. And then the bottom is 25x squared. Times, I have to flip this fraction, and they're both add multiplies. So starting with the top, you're going to be 4 and 2, so x plus 2, x plus 4, but I'm going to write it at the bottom because I have to flip that fraction. And then this is another add multiply, but it's going to be written at the top, x plus 4, x plus 6. Make one big giant fraction here, and I can start simplifying. So my x plus 2's cancel, my x plus 4's cancel, and my 5 and 25 can simplify. So up top, I'm left with an x minus 2 and x plus 6. And at the bottom, I'm left with a 5x squared. All right, I will see you guys soon in the live Teams chat.